की जय। Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajikacharya Stotra Satyashimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Hare Krishna Mahamanta Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Pramanande. Hare Hare Gaur. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gaurangas. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Swami Nityananda. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Chittapani Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Sthiti Nandini. Narayana Namaskritta Narunchaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. Nashta Prayeswa Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhavata Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. Good morning, dear devotees. Please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I'm already going to. Okay, good. So this morning's text from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, the passing away of Bhishma Dev in the presence of Lord Krishna. And we'll do text 45 today. Hare Krishna. Tatra dudumbayo nedu deva mana bhavadita sham shamsu sadavuragyam katvetu pushpa vishtayam tatra dudumbayo nedu deva mana bhavadita sham shamsu sadavuragyam katvetu pushpa vishtayam tatra dudumbayo nedu deva mana bhavadita shamsasu sadavuragyam katvetu pushpa vishtayam. Hare Krishna. Anyone who wants to repeat the Sanskrit can do so now.
Hare Krishna. Tatra dandhu bhayo nedur deva mana bhavaditaha sansashuh sadavo ragyam khatpetu pushpa vrashtayah.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Tatra dandu bhayo nedur deva manavavaditaha shanshashu sadhavo ragnam khapte tuhu pushpavashtatyah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Tatra dundu bhayo nedu Deva Manava Vadita Samsaya Sadavo Rajnam Katpe tu Puspa Vrittaya.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Up, go, Mataji.
Okay. Tatra dandu bhayo nidu deva manava bhaditaha shanshansuhu sadhavo ragyam khatpetuhu pushpavishtayah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Tatra dandu bayo nedar deva manava vaditaha. Excuse me. Shasham susadhavo rajnanam katpetu pushpa vrishtaya tayaha. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Krishna, Krishna.
Tatra dundu bhayone dhur deva manavavaditaha sashamsu sadhavo ragnam khatpetu pushpavrushtaya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Tatra dindu bhayo nidur deva manava badita sasamshayu sadhavo rajnyam khatpetu purusha vristaya.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? All right, word for word. Tatra, thereafter. Dundubaya, drums. Nedu were sounded. Deva, the demigods from other planets. Manava, men from all countries. Vadita, beaten by. Shasham, Su, praised. Sadhava, honest. Ragyam, by the royal order. Kat, from the sky. Petu, began to fall. Uspavishtaya, showers of flowers. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Thereafter, both men and demigods sounded drums in honor, and the honest royal order commenced demonstrations of honor and respect. And from the sky fell showers of flowers. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Bhishma was respected by both the human beings and by the demigods. The human beings live on Earth and similar other planets in the Bu and Bhuva group of planets. But the demigods live in the Swa or heavenly planets. And all of them knew Bhishma as a great warrior and devotee of the Lord. As a Mahajan or authority, he was on the level of Brahma, Narada, and Shiva, although he was a human being. Qualification on a par with the great demigods is possible only on attainment of spiritual perfection. Thus, Bhishma was known all over the universes, and during his time, interplanetary travel was effected by finer methods than the futile endeavors of mechanical spacecraft. When the distant planets were informed of the passing away of Bhishma, all the inhabitants of the upper planets as well as of the earth dropped showers of flowers to show due respect to the departed great personality. This showering of flowers from heaven is a sign of recognition by great demigods, and it should never be compared to the decoration of a dead body. The body of Bhishma lost its material effects due to being surcharged with spiritual realization, and thus the body was spiritualized as when iron becomes red hot when in contact with fire. The body of a fully self-realized soul is not therefore accepted as material. Special ceremonies are observed for such spiritual bodies. The respect and recognition of Bhishma are never to be imitated by artificial means, as it has become a fashion to observe the so-called Jayanti ceremony for any and every common man. According to the authorized Shastras, such a Jayanti ceremony for an ordinary man, however exalted he may be materially, is an offense to the Lord, because Jayanti is reserved for the day when the Lord appears on the earth. Bhishma Dev was unique in his activities, and his passing away to the kingdom of God is also unique. Om Gana Tumadanjasya, Gyana Gana Shalakaya, Jakshu Om Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha, Sri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale, Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaha Padantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam, Sri Guru Vaisnavam Scha. Sri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam. Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam. Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Scha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanu Sute Devi Panamami Hari Priye. Vanchakalpa Turubhastya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirveshesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Shatarani. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guratache Namaha. Nandalilamaya Vigrahaya Magya Divachari Shandaraya Tasmi Mahaprema Raspadaya Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. So the English translation of the text is, thereafter both men and demigods sounded drums in honor, and the honest royal order commenced demonstration of honor and respect, and from the sky fell showers of flowers. Hare Krishna. So a couple of texts before this one, which indicated clearly that Bhishma Dev, the great devotee of the Lord, had finished his activities in service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and to this earth planet. And after reminding devotees who were present in his leaving, the occasion of his leaving, about the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and talking about himself, there's so many the pastimes, and this there's some of them, that he would always remember the Lord. Then he left his body, became silent. And so first, everybody was quiet. That was the text before this. And then in this text, it's showing that after Bhishma left the body, then both men and demigods sounded drums in honor of Bhishma Dev, and then the commencement of things that have to be done to show honor and respect started, including showers of flowers that fell from the sky. So Bhishma Dev's parting was a very memorable and a significant occasion that devotees still, even though he's long gone, it's the Bhagavatam is the Bhagavatam for a reason. It should be relished because his life was very exemplary. Bhishma Dev, because of his exemplary life of humility and selflessness in giving himself to others, serving others. He was very much respected. A devotee does not clamor for respect. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text 8 through 12, the qualities that Krishna describes as knowledge, they are listed there. And the first one is humility. And in the purport here, Prabhupada defines humility as a person who is humble, as one who is not clamoring for recognition and for respect and those kind of things. So we as devotees should not clamor for respect either. Lord Chaitanya says that in Shastaka, Amanina Manadena. Why should we not clamor for respect? We should never do that. Because the false ego will kick in, and from expecting respect, we're going to wind up becoming proud people. And pride has no place in the spiritual world. So the false ego will make us proud, and that's why we should never clamor for respect. It's about time they recognized me, see all that I've done. Not important. We can't be servants and want appreciation that way. Then we're not servants. We're not thinking like servants, at least. Srila Prabhupada says, the human beings on the Earth and other similar planets in the Bhu and Bhuva group of planets, human beings live there. We are on this one of the smaller planets, the Earth planet. And the Earth planet is in the Bhu group, and Bhuva, and it says human beings live there too. But the demigods in the Swagaloka, Indra, king of heavenly planets. And then above that, when you go on, it gets more subtle. Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and then the topmost, which is Satyaloka or Brahmaloka. More used to or more equipped with the subtle aspects of life, including the mystic cities and so on. As you go higher, they have those qualities. So they all knew about Bhishma as a great warrior, and they also knew him as a devotee of the Lord, as Prabhupada explains here. So Bhishma on this earth here was a human being, but he was one of the Mahajans. There are 12 Mahajans. Prabhupada says he was on the level of Brahma, Narada, and Shiva, although he was a human being. By his own devotion, he was at that level. So there are 12 Mahajans: Brahma, Shiva, Narada Muni, Manu, the Kumaras, and the Kapila, Prahlad, then of course, as we talked about, Bhishmadev, Sukadeva Goswami, Yamaraj, Janak, and Bali Maharaj. All of these are great devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when they speak wisdom, and they speak pastimes of the Lord. They describe the Lord. So many prayers are from them. So many instructions are from them. And they are definitely praiseworthy as devotees. But as a devotee, they take the humble position in practically everything that they do. Narada Muni has been so significant in everybody's life. Everybody that he touched, he elevated them. Narada Muni's praises can go on and on and on and on and on, although he doesn't clamor for any praise. He's a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, totally liberated spaceman, goes to all types of the planetary systems as well as the spiritual world, the earthly, the material planetary systems, as well as the spiritual world. And everything that Krishna asks him to do, he would go and do and make it part so that Krishna's pastimes can unfold the way he wants. So he's a pure servant of the Lord and a great example for all of us to follow. We are aspiring to be servants of a servant of a servant of a Supreme Personality of Godhead. That should always be at the back of our minds. Servant of a servant, servant of a Supreme Personality of Godhead. When you're a servant of a servant, your position is not high on the ladder. Your position is a position that is literally inbuilt with humility. A servant who serves another servant, who serves another servant. But Srila Prabhupada says, when we're a servant of a servant, he said in one lecture, 1,000 times servant. That's better. The more we feel that we are servant of a servant of a servant, the more humble, or the humbler we become. Bhishma Dev lived his life holding positions of authority, but his activities were always selfless activities. So yes, as a Mahajan, he was on a level of Brahma, Narada, and Shiva, but he always lived his life selflessly in help to others. So Srila Prabhupada says, to be at that level with great demigods is possible only by attainment of spiritual perfection. When our chanting becomes better, then our spiritual quality also goes up. So it is very, very important that we use our senses. Srila Prabhupada dictates the more senses that we use when we hear the holy name, the more focused our attention is. And the more focused our attention is, the better the quality of a chanting. And the better the quality of a chanting, the better the service that we give to devotees, to Guru, and to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in that sense, they are all connected. We have so many things these days that distract us. And the material energy here on this earth, they're trying very much through electronic means to distract us more and more and more and more. But as Srila Prabhupada has explained, we use technology, yes, but we should use technology with the aim of serving Krishna, just like we're doing now using Zoom. So Bhishma Dev was known throughout all the universes. And Srila Prabhupada throws in at that time, interplanetary travel was by subtle methods and not this type of mechanical spacecraft that has a lot of limitations to it, although the scientists don't ever want us to know. But those things are so limited. Anyway, so when Prabhupada says now, when the distant planets were informed of the passing away of Bhishma Dev, all the inhabitants of the upper planets as well as the earth, they dropped flowers, showers of flowers to show due respect to this great personality. We may not have a lot of flowers dropped on us or even brought to us at the time that we're leaving, but there's one thing that we need to make sure that we do so that devotees would help us to get a favorable transition. A devotee that's leaving the body should remember Krishna. That is a success of a devotee's life. But it has been described that the death process itself, when you come to the end of it, is quite painful. And so the body gets challenged quite a bit with pain. But when devotees are around, devotees will chant the holy name of the Lord so we can remember Krishna. Fortunately also, this body, even though sometimes we call it a bad bargain, one of the senses, the sense of hearing, does not go out so quickly. And so when devotees are around, when a person is, another devotee, the time has come to leave, and they chant the holy name of the Lord, it is to help that person that's dying to remember Krishna. Krishna says, you remember me, you come to me. So devotees would come do that. But which devotees would come? Devotees that are favorable to the person that's leaving the body. Which devotees are favorable? Devotees that we have established good relationship with, the person that's leaving. Those are the ones that will take time off to come help us with our transition. Therefore, the conclusion is we need to maintain respect for all devotees so that they will, at the time that we need them the most, and our senses have shut down, and we can't chant the holy name of Lord ourselves, they would come and help us while we are in that pain of the transition, the death process. Many, many great souls came to see Bhishma leave. And those that didn't, even when they were in the planets, it was possible for them. And so they used that possibility of dropping showers of flowers to show respect and appreciation to Bhishma. Srila Prabhupada says the showering of flowers from heaven is a sign of recognition by great demigods. So when they recognize somebody in a situation like Bhishma was in, they would show recognition by showering flowers, flower petals onto the body of that. And Srila Prabhupada says, we should not compare this to just a simple decoration of a dead body. When a devotee takes bhakti very seriously, the empowerment, the physical outlook of the body may look the same, but it is actually not the same in quality anymore. So Srila Prabhupada is describing the body of Bhishma lost its material effects because it was surcharged with spiritual realization, an indirect way of telling us that we should take this spiritual life very seriously, so that the more, day by day, we involve ourselves in spiritual activity, then our bodies is also becoming more and more spiritualized. Our consciousness definitely will be more spiritualized because, as Rupa Goswami said, we should remember, always think about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and never forget the Lord. Always think about the Lord, never forget the Lord. Then the body and the mind especially is being spiritualized in many ways. Whatever that we see or hear, we should try to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even with nature. Why? Because it's through him that nature got put there. So if we want to see with the eyes of a first-class devotee, then everything we see, everything we smell, just like Maharaj Ambarish used the senses the way he did. He used it to serve, but we should also remember that it came from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Remember one lecture, Sri Rana Maharaj was making a some comparison, and the comparison was to in a situation, and you can imagine it's not that difficult, that when there is a painting, for example, the father sees a painting by the son. The son is not a good artist. So on the quality of the painting itself is not so great. But the father knows who tried to make that drawing. And because of the affection that the father has for that drawing, for the son, the affection makes it possible for the father to bypass the low quality of the picture itself and just appreciate it and have some connection with it in love because of who drew it, the person that drew it, and the relationship that they have. So in the same way, there could be things, and there are things in the material world that don't give us much pleasure, because material world is, it's a mixture of pleasure and distress. So there's some things that are even distressful. So he was making the comparison of distress in the material world to, or things that don't give us so much pleasure, to a painting that's not so good. But if you know where the source is, that source is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Material nature and the spiritual world all belong to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He says that in Bhagavad Gita. Everything emanates from me. So to remember the Lord, the mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra is wonderful because that is spiritual in nature. But even the material things, the point Maharaj was making is every time you see any material thing, think of Krishna because it came through material nature, and material nature is owned by Krishna. And in that way, everything around you, and sometimes people say, well, if I'm doing my work and it's not spiritual, it's not bhakti, then how do I remember Krishna? Well, everything around you came from material nature. Everything around you came from material nature. And if everything around us came from material nature, then we have to remember who is the owner of material nature, Lord Vishnu. And that way you can remember, oh yes, everything I'm using, I'm writing with a pencil. Well, the pencil's materials that made the pencil came from Supreme Personality of Godhead. Graphite is from the earth. Wood is from the trees. Those are the two things that were put together. And the intelligence, the person that put it together like that is also from Krishna. So that way, then everything that's material, we can remember Krishna with it. So really, if we want to, thinking about things that way. Now I want to speak of spiritual. Spiritual is wonderful. Everything is connected that we've been given by the spiritual master and the instructions and the service that we put in. That's all spiritual. We give it to our spiritual master, it's spiritualized. Goes to Prabhupada, goes to Parampara, it is spiritualized. Everything we use. But even the material things, if we remember that material nature is owned by Krishna, then in our day-to-day activities, we would be appreciative of the power of Krishna, of the dominance of Krishna, just by looking at things around us and remembering from where they came. So, as Srila Prabhupada was saying, the body can be spiritualized as when iron gets put in fire, it becomes red hot and it takes the qualities of the fire. So the body of a fully self-realized soul is not therefore accepted as material. The spiritual master's body, remember Bhishma is one of the Mahajanas, instructors, Shiksha. Spiritual master is Shiksha, he also gives that. So a bona fide spiritual master, we should consider the body also spiritualized and regard them as such. That is the right consciousness in our relationship with our gurus. So we are very fortunate to be in the process that we're in now. So much was there by Bhishma, showed by Bhishma in Mahabharata. If we go on there, we will never finish because Mahabharata, Bhishma did so much. But underlying all of this was selflessness. How many people with the opportunity to become a king would do something on their own to turn it down, knowing very well what it is like to be a king and how much power is there? But Bhishma did exactly that for his father's love. So he was very, very selfless. His selflessness cannot be overstated. So through all of this, his death was greeted nicely with respect and appreciation. As in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, Text 12, and Srila Prabhupada talks a little bit about, this is about Prithu Maharaj. When Prithu Maharaj came, was made king, Prithu came with Archie. After Venus' body was massaged and the negativity taken away in the form of a personality called Bahuka, and then the Brahmins turned it again, and this came Maharaj Prithu and his wife Archie. So Maharaj Prithu was appreciated very much and viewed well here on this planet. And the Kumaras also came in the function. And the Kumaras were very much appreciated by Maharaj Prithu. So this is a section of the purport by Srila Prabhupada, where Prithu Maharaj appreciating the four Kumaras. So Srila Prabhupada says Maharaj Prithu specifically appreciated the positions of the Kumaras because they maintained the Brahmacharya vow from the very beginning of their birth. What do we learn from that? Maharaj Prithu was appreciating the four Kumaras because they, from the beginning, even though they were impersonal, but they didn't want to deal with the material energy. They wanted to deal more with things that are transcendental. Srila Prabhupada teaches us, when we chant all of the time, we chant on our beat, and we also chant just when we're going about our work, the mantra should be ringing. Like that, then we are connected with the spiritual. Just like the four Kumaras in their birth, they decided they didn't even want to deal with anything that is supposed to be material ecstasy, like sex life. So they maintained the size of little people, because little people are, well, we'll call them quite toddlers, but around there, that age, 4 or 5 years old, they do not think of sex life. In that way, they stayed with spiritual activities, and they also were moving around, only dealing with the transcendental aspect of things. So Maharaj Prithu was expressing great appreciation of Vaishnavism by addressing the Kumaras. He addressed them as Vaishnava Shrestha, the best of Vaishnavas. And Srila Prabhupada teaches us, in other words, everyone should offer respect to a Vaishnava without considering his source of birth. Vaishnava Jati Buddhi. The best, most intelligent is a Vaishnava. No one should consider Vaishnava in terms of the birth. So whether you're born in India or you're born outside of India, you got to go Krishna consciousness later on, or you were born into Krishna consciousness. Nobody should put themselves above another person because of the source of birth. As Prabhupada says, one should offer all respect to a Vaishnava, not only as a Brahman, but as the best of Brahmanas. In another letter to Tamar Krishna Goswami, PKJ, August 19, 1968, Srila Prabhupada was writing. Srila Prabhupada commended Tamar Krishna Goswami because of his appreciation for the service of his God brothers. So Srila Prabhupada wrote in a letter, your appreciation for the service of your God brothers is very much praiseworthy, very laudable. Then he says, this is actually a devotee's business, that everyone should appreciate the value of other devotees. So it means that no matter what service is being offered, the quality of the type of service that's being offered, the person, nobody should think that their service is more important than other person's service. But as a matter of fact, Srila Prabhupada talks about it a little later. Let me just go through the purport as it says. First, nobody should criticize anyone. Nobody should criticize anyone. If you say bad things about someone, it's like throwing bad things at them, like trash. That's the way my Guru Maharaj one time made us think. Says, would you take trash and just throw it at somebody? You wouldn't do that. Physical, you wouldn't even think to do that. But then if we throw words that are trashy at somebody, that is the same thing. Same thing in a different medium, but it is still negative things. Trash is not something you want to do, throw at somebody, throw it away, put it in a place where it gets discarded and take it out of your house. So in the same way, criticism should go out of your house, should be gone. And if you criticize the devotee, it's even worse. because that's a person that is serving the Supreme Personality of God, and Radharani does not like it at all. He's the mother of devotion. So everyone is engaged in the service of the Lord according to maybe what has been asked for them to do, or according to the person's capacity. Krishna only sees the sincerity in rendering service to him. The sincerity. We don't do things so perfectly. Sometimes we may think materially that one person's service, my service is better, but that's our material vision. And Sri Prabhupada explains on the spiritual platform, the service rendered by even a calf to Krishna, and the service rendered by Srimati Radharani and her associates, the gopis, to Krishna, there's no difference. Krishna looks at that quality that comes from the heart. So even an ant, another lecture, Papa says, so if a flower is thrown at Krishna's feet, the ant comes, sees the flower, goes on Krishna's feet, and kisses the toe of Krishna. It is as important as the pujari that is serving Krishna, the deity. So he's giving so many analogies that the service is from the heart. The type of service is not, Krishna doesn't grade it based on the type of service. No. So there are some every day they get to dress the deity, after Mangalati and after, and then that is over, and Shingadev prayer, and then after the Shingadev prayer, the altar door closes, and behind the altar, the pujaris immediately get to work dressing the deities. And at some point, somebody is also sweeping the temple room or sweeping the living quarters of the devotees. That person that's sweeping, that person that's watching the parts, their service is just as important as the one who is dressing the deity. And we should never allow a false ego to say that I'm a pujari, therefore I'm better than a person that is a bhakta and he just came in and just got this menial service of sweeping and so on. Krishna looks at all the same way. It's the sincerity. There is no difference. Sri Prabhupada says, Krishna is so kind and liberal that everyone's service, when it is sincerely offered to Krishna, he accepts it. That's why he says, Bhaktam Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhakta Parachiti. Even if somebody offers a little bit of flour from a fruit, water, he accepts it. But if there's devotion and love in it, though, that's what's important. So we should maintain this position of subordination. We are subordinate. We should always give respect to devotees who are engaged in devotional service. And that is how we're going to make a progressive march in the devotional line. So in this letter, this is all parts of a letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote to Tamar Krishna Goswami. He commended Tamar Krishna Goswami for appreciating the service of his God brothers. Because he wrote like that and says, we should appreciate, we should not criticize. If you see something that's not done properly by another devotee, be an example. If you don't, you have to use very mild words to try to explain if something needs to be done differently. If not, you should be the good example by your own action. Because that actions speak louder, as we know. Actions speak louder than words. I want to take a little bit of the time that's left now to also talk about writings by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. If you know, it was called the Seventh Goswami. So much he did. So in this mood of being humble, Tunadapi Snichena, Vaishnava, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes, Vaishnava who experiences ecstasy in the Lord's name is humbler than a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree. Tunadapi Snichena, Tarodivasahishana. A Vaishnava who experiences ecstasy. That's the point he's making. When we are more tolerant and we are humbler, there's more ecstasy. Spiritual ecstasy comes. Now, amanina manadina, offering respect to others, but not taking respect from others. As a matter of fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur goes to the extent of saying that the person is unwilling, which is even a stronger word, unwilling to receive respect. Unwilling to receive respect, but is eager to offer respect to others. So on the one hand, we should be unwilling to receive respect, but we should be eager to be respecting others. Such an elevated soul alone is worthy of chanting the Lord's name constantly. So then he explains, when the pure souls offer praise, eagerly offer praise and worship to the Guru and senior Vaishnavas, they do so out of respect. And then for those that are junior to them, when they give advice to those disciples, and bottom line of the advice is always chant. They encourage them with words of appreciation. So that connects with what Srila Prabhupada was saying, to never criticize other devotees, but actually be more encouraging. Srila Prabhupada, when he first came, everything that those who came to see him in New York were doing, every little thing that was positive, everything that was good, he pulled that and gave so much praise to encourage them. As a matter of fact, I have to say my own humble self. I remember in my upbringing also, my mother was a teacher, and at home, and he was teaching in elementary school, so he knew how to handle little kids, and I was a little kid at that time. I remember every little thing that I did that was good in her eyes, she praised me a lot. And she praised me, and a child, if you do that to a child, my mother likes what I did, then let me do something else that he would like. Let me do something that she would like. Let me do something. And in that way, just to make my mother happy, I was doing a lot of things around the house without even being asked to do. Wasn't that I was a great person, or I was more responsible. I was just a child. But because the way I was being encouraged kept me going to do things. And that is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying here. To junior devotees or people that are less in age to us, we should give advice to chant, but also encourage with words of appreciation, appreciating what they do. Now, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also talks about other religions, and this part is sensitive here. First, he says, actually, there is no dharma other than Vaishnava Dharma. Bottom line, Vaishnava Dharma is the best. All the other religions that are in the world now, and even those that will come in the future, they factually comprise different steps upon their ascension, different steps on the way to Vaishnava Dharma. Or, unfortunately, some of them are deviations from the Vaishnava Dharma also. Both are there. Some are actually getting there and some are deviations. And this past Saturday, not this Saturday 2 days ago, but 9 days ago, in Harrisburg. So devotees went out. There's a particular spot once a month. We gather there and the devotees chant the holy name of the Lord. We have books, we do book distribution. So this is in downtown Harrisburg. And we were just, it was time for us to go. We finished, books were distributed, devotees were happy, we had a little prasadam, and then we were getting ready to go. And these two ladies came to us. And I was in a distance, I didn't see, but I saw them talking to my daughter and a few other younger Mataji devotees. And when I came a little closer, I heard them mention the name of Jesus. So I knew what they were talking about then. They talked for a while. And then I heard my daughter trying to tell them that the other religions were more important. I mean, were also important as the Christian religion. But they insisted, as many Christians do now, that Christ is the only way. And that they were going to heaven. So my daughters packed everything else, Madanga and prasadam and tables and so on, and left. And I moved towards them. So it got to the point there was just the three of us, two ladies and myself, and they were talking to me. And I quoted some things from the Bible to try to help them out because you have to start where they are at. But they were in a situation where they were so convinced that everything I talked to them about, and this is the first time I actually experienced it, everything I told them about, they found a way to get around it. And sometimes, for one place that I quoted in John, they actually explained this, tried to explain to me their situation, the situation, and wound up being offensive to the disciples of Jesus Christ. Actually offensive to them because, well, they didn't know much. Oh, and I said, John didn't know much, Peter didn't know much, but there's ones that are advising you in the Bible, and now you're telling me they don't know much. Does she know a lot? No, he got the Spirit. And anyway, I won't belabor this so much, but it ended, and I did something I'd never done before, and I'll just throw it out to you, so maybe you can advise me about it. So one of them was actually Indian body. When I mentioned Krishna, he says, Krishna is not God. And I immediately reacted to it. So at first I was smiling at them because they were not telling me anything I didn't know. But when this Mataji says, Krishna is actually not God, I just immediately, it was a knee-jerk reaction. I was like this, Krishna is not God. I think that's the end of it. We have to go now, all right? So I put my and walked away from them immediately. And normally I would just go through a few arguments here and here and here and there. But when somebody comes and says emphatically, Krishna is not God, I can't even stand it. So I just folded my hands. just like this, and I'm out of here, and left them. Now that's what later on in the question section, I'd like some of you to comment about it, whether my reaction was actually the right reaction or not. But I was just so burned to hear that. That I said, later for you people, I'm not going to talk to you at all. So our hearts should be involved in devotional service. And last thing I'll just bring up is also by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. He has 64 principles for community. And the principle number 49, it says, and I'll read the whole thing first. Do not give up devotional service, even if there are innumerable dangers, countless insults, and endless harassment. And just like I was feeling with these girls that came up, young ladies came up and talked about trying to harass us. Do not become disheartened that most people in this world do not accept the message of unalloyed devotional service. Don't become disheartened that most people don't accept it. Never give up your devotional service and hearing and chanting about Krishna, which is your everything. Always chant the holy name, becoming more humble than a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj says, no matter what is there, even if there are innumerable dangers, countless insults, endless harassment, don't give up devotional service. Then I'll end with one story. So one of the Matajis, I heard when Srila Prabhupada was here on the planet, so his disciples were quite young and they were doing book distribution every day. There was one particular Mataji in an airport trying to get a man's attention about books, Srila Prabhupada's books. And this person was so negative. At first, the Mataji was calm, but this person was so negative that not only did he not want to take a book, but he actually knocked the rest of the books that were in the Mataji's hand, just knocked them to the floor. Boot bag and everything, just literally attacked them and walked away. And of course, this is the airport, there were quite a number of people around. They saw it, but the Mataji just simply took all her books calmly, put it back in the book bag, and went on to the next person and continued book distribution. Didn't bat an eye, didn't show any emotion of being upset or anything. It just, this is obviously harassment on the part of that person. There are times where people meet other people, devotees meet other people. Would you be interested? They talk, they say, no, thank you, and they walk away. That's one thing. But this person actually harassed the devotee, and still, this devotee Mataji continued as if nothing serious had happened, didn't show any emotions, and went on enthusiastically preaching. by distributing books. Hare Krishna. So Bhishma gave everything that Krishna required of him. Bhishma was selfless, even giving up the opportunity. He was crown prince in Maharaj Shantanu's time. He was a crown prince, but he gave all that up and served and always connected with Krishna all the way to the very end. And his life is really, really exemplary, and we could learn a lot from it. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. I think it is just providence that you get these verses because I don't think there's any better person to talk about this topic. If anybody has any questions, please just unmute yourself and go ahead. One thing I was thinking as I was listening to you is, nobody says, I am looking for praise, I'm looking for credit for my service. None of us think that. But there are still so many problems. That means I am definitely part of the problem. I'm still not doing things right. Do you have one or two very practical tips how to look within, how to correct myself? How do I check myself and see if I am doing things for credit, for,
I get a sense of what you're saying. Do you want to finish? Because I didn't want to interrupt.
No. Yeah, that's basically.
Okay. So this reminds me of, the question you brought up reminds me of a particular workshop that my Guru Maharaj gave on the false ego. We should, at the end of the day or the end of the week, there should be time we put aside to do some introspection. Things, and actually the end of the day is even better because then you remember things that happened the day. We actually can pray to our Guru and then begin to assess our own actions in terms of the intention behind it. Where was the intention? Is it is it me wanting praise? Is it me wanting recognition? Or was it because I was trying to serve, just like a servant has been directed by Srila Prabhupada to serve, just like the scripture tells us to serve, not wanting anything from it. Are we offering pure devotional service? Pure devotional service is when we don't want anything as a remuneration for what we do, but we do it wholly, happily, enthusiastically, just for the sake of serving the Lord's senses. We can take stock of what we're doing, and after praying about it, listen to the Lord in our heart for the things that have happened in the day and the intention behind it. If we're not sure, sometimes you can approach senior devotees and say, this is what's going on with me. What do you think is going on? What should my consciousness be? In other words, sometimes when we're associating with devotees, we should go to devotees who are senior, who are more experienced, or sometimes even write to our gurus. And whatever thing that appears unclear to our minds, bring it up so we can get direction. We won't always know. Sometimes not quite sure, but if you bring it up in a question form to a senior devotee or a Shiksha Guru, Krishna will help for the answers to come. So that's one way of going about trying to make sure whether our devotional quality is actually great or it needs a little bit of correction. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy. Adona Prabhu, I think Adona Chaj's hand is up.
Hare Krishna, Pariksit Prabhu. Please
Hare
accept
Krishna.
humble obeisances. Jai Shri
Right.
Prabhupada and our Lord Gurudev. Thank you again for a wonderful class. As always, so many practical and important points that you had. I wanted to focus on the one you mentioned with regards to in Krishna's eyes, these services are equal with regards to whether one's a pujari, whether one's a sweeper of the temple, or assisting the devotees in some way, or there's so many services that are out there. And such an important point, because sometimes we see that mentality, you know, it's like, I'm a cook, I'm not a pot washer, or I'm I'm pujari, I'm not a sweeper, or I'm this, I'm not a that. At the same time, I was hoping you could maybe explain that there are some services that are, require certain qualifications. So for instance, in order to, worship on the altar, there needs to be certain qualifications. So a person could maybe perceive it in the way that, okay, because I need second initiation to worship the deity on the altar and be a pujari, that may be considered of a different status, and then thus give maybe a sense of pride. Could you explain that component of it?
A very, very, very important point. Just like, okay, if we bring it down even to, and it's a little bit delicate to do this, bring it down to material situation. When a person has done some work at a certain level, and they have a degree at a certain level, to go up to the next and be able to get particular type of work, the next level, maybe a bachelor's to the master's, there's some things that you would do that a person with the bachelor's program would not do because it's not really required. So the training part is there, the knowledge, just like, so that kind of material example is there. And when it comes to devotion also, there are some things that will have to be incorporated and in the training. And from there, another, because of service, the way it is and the rules that are there, another type of level. And I know you mentioned the Brahman initiation and so on, another level, and the Gayatri mantra, and that all of that's given. Now, what we have to be careful of when we get a person in second initiation compared to a person who's even a bhakta, the Krishna is only looking at, yes, you were trained, and that person is not trained, and you've been there for a while, and that's why you got that particular position in order to do that particular training for second initiation in order to do a particular service. But it doesn't mean you're better, because Krishna is looking at only one thing, the sincerity of the service, the sincerity behind the service. That's all that matters, the sincerity. Now, particular services involve particular training, and some services are so menial, anyone can do it. That's there, but it doesn't make a person bigger and better. The gopis don't consider themselves better than the cowherd boys. They serve Krishna in a different way from the way the cowherd boys also relate to Krishna. It's all about sincerity, and for us, sincerity is what eventually makes us get on the path of now doing it in love, which is what the devotee's aim should be, Krishna Prema. So anyone that is given a position, and there's only one thing in devotional service, when a person gets initiated, when the first initiate or the second initiates, that's for everybody. Second initiates get to go on the altar, second initiates decorate, they bathe, they decorate the deity. But no matter what we do, Krishna has, which has been explained here by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and by Srila Prabhupada, that the service is looked at the same way by Krishna in terms of the love, the devotion, and the sincerity. So nobody that's second initiate should feel that they are better than a person that's a first initiate. Besides, everyone that is first or second has an opportunity to go back to the spiritual world. Bottom line, leave the material world and go back to the spiritual world. So it's not a thing of a status. It's just a thing of responsibility and the training for it. And even though if a title comes, with it that you're a second initiate, yes, you're second initiate, but the service only is looked at by Krishna in terms of the sincerity in which you're doing things. So that should be what is at the back of the minds, or should be at the back of the minds of those who are second initiated compared to first initiates, or first initiates compared to the Bhaktas. And let me tell one story and then listen to Mr. Vinay next. This is, we were in the Detroit Temple, Michigan. And there were about 5 million, about 4 God brothers. We were sitting in a place where we were having some prasadam. Inside the temple, I guess is the area. I won't call it a prasadam hall. It was just a small place. And one of the devotees, that's the temple devotee, all of a sudden came to where we were, and he was seemed to be agitated. And there was some work that was supposed to be done. I think it was a sweeping something, menial service that was supposed to be done that had not been done. And he was literally talking on the top of his voice. Why is this service not done? Why is this service not done? And he says, where are the Bhaktas? Where are the Bhaktas to do this service? And we looked at it, and we were all visitors now. We're from Washington, D.C. We looked at him, and then one of the godfathers says, well, Prabhu, we are all Bhaktas. What is the service that you want us to do? So we got up, and then when it took we all Bhaktas, then he kind of calmed down. And he saw up, he knew obviously we were visitors because he's based in the temple and he knows people that come in. So that's how he calmed down. But among the godfathers were all first initiates and second initiates. Nobody really was not an initiated person. But still, that idea of classing, we have to be very careful. Otherwise, it will bring disturbances and divisions among us. And that won't work so well for us. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, for nicely explaining that very much. Thank you. And I also wanted to say thank you for sharing that story about the lady on Sankirtan. That was also very inspiring. So thank you for sharing that example.
So, Mr. Vinda Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Please on an annual basis, as all goes to Prabhupada, all the Vaishnavas. Again, thank you for a very wonderful class full of reflection, insight. I am a person who's very, very, very much guilty of criticizing. I've heard many times in classes this aspect of criticizing, and it's an aspect of us being in the human body, and it's learned also. It's learned. Children learn it from parents. It's learned from teachers. It's learned from managers or employers, etc., as a tool to help write something. And this morning, your reflections and the insight and knowledge that you gave from Shastra, Srila Prabhupada, and our Guru Maharaj, it made me look, because I can only speak on myself, on how damaging it is. But it's better to learn properly, in the beginning, than and more difficult to correct it. But there's an aspect of healing that is involved with learning what to do and what not to do. And again, because, in America and all over the world, criticizing shows that you're in charge of something, somewhere. It just, whether you're a parent or whatever, you're correcting something, you're doing something that helps to change things. I wanted to add a little something to your comment to Dronacharya, and that is regarding the, services, someone being having brahminical initiation. The training is an aspect of it, but just as both you and I received brahminical initiation from our Guru Maharaj Bhakti Tirtha Swami, I'm very thankful for it. I was not qualified. I'm still not qualified. And so the training I greatly appreciated. But beyond the training is the mercy of the guru, which is how you get that aspect to be trained. And that's what I was reflecting on in terms of both gratitude and understanding time, place, circumstance, and doing the needed, whatever it may be, whether it's cleaning the toilet or taking care of guests. And I also wanted to reflect on your comments on seva or service, one service being better than the other. And the part I wanted to reflect on in regards to your discourse is we should be careful not to look at someone as though they're not doing service if we're not with them 24 hours a day. And it's also important to understand what service is, because I've heard things like, someone's no longer considered a devotee because they don't see them at the temple. So from our Guru Maharaj's teachings and Srila Prabhupada's care and Lord Chaitanya's compassion, we should understand if we don't see someone, then maybe we could reach out. It doesn't mean that they're not a devotee because they're not at the temple sweeping in front of us or chanting in front of us or cleaning or doing whatever. There are so many ways to serve anywhere because Krishna is everywhere. And I was just thinking about in terms of healing in communities. And, myself, I'm constantly striving to heal because it's linear. And as we're healing, we're better able to access these aspects of bhakti, and everyone needs it. And thank you again for giving me this impetus to have these reflections on what should be done. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. That's a good point you're making. Sometimes devotees may say that someone's not been seen around in the temple much, therefore they're not doing much of devotional activities. That would be assumption on the part of the person that's thinking that way. That is true. There's also another point that's important, that if you don't come around much, then one of the things the devotee that doesn't come around is missing is a lot of association with devotees, sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha is always possible to do when you actually have contact with other devotees. And the last thing also that's important about Bhagavatam said, alludes to, is congregational chanting. Now, congregational chanting of the holy name is done in association of devotees. So a person that may not come around the temple may still going on chanting, may still be serving the deities at home, may still be doing other things that are devotional, but they are still missing out on congregational chanting as well as devotee association. And they are also quite critical, in a person's development. So that, whatever that situation is that the person is going through, they should also bear in mind that those two things, Sankirtan, chanting in association with devotees, and also just being able to relate to devotees, demands that the person come around to the place where that would be achieved, and that is in the temple. That's why the temple
I beg to differ with you on that. It's not just in a temple. All it takes is one other person to chant in assembly of devotees. And I'm just saying that because from our Guru Maharaj's perspective on community, first there should be caring. So if we don't see someone and they cannot come because they're ill, for example, or something has happened where they cannot get to the temple, then there should be care and concern on that level too. No one should feel ostracized from a temple. No one should feel not welcome. Oh, one second, I'm sorry. And I'm just saying that because if someone can't come because of whatever, economic, not so regularly, then from a community standpoint, there should be someone reaching out, someone trying to connect.
I agree about reaching out. No question.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's all. But I'm saying the temple is there. It's Vaikuntha. It's a place. It's Vrindavan. It's a place. Well, that's what it's supposed to be. It's Vrindavan. It is Vrindavan, And so this mindset and actions and words and deeds should reflect that in every way, that helps people want to come more. And also the word that Gurudev was very good at, outreach. How are you okay? You know, I haven't seen you. Can I help you? Like this kind of mood versus, oh, well, this person doesn't come around anymore. They're no longer a devotee. And I'm not criticizing. I'm just reflecting. And then chanting, if someone can't get to the temple for whatever reason, and they have, for example, devotees in their household, it's still congregational chanting. The number is just smaller, right? And there's so many aspects in Vaikuntha Temple that benefit every aspect of our being, physically, emotionally, psychologically, that it's the place where I want to be. Absolutely. I can't always get there as much as I used to. But even if I come in off time and no one sees me, I'm still there. And, you know, Krishna is everywhere. Therefore, we are most fortunate. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I don't disagree with you. I'm not disagreeing with the things that you said about, you know, having to reach when somebody is not coming to the temple much, check on that person. Yes, it's necessary to do. It's all important. It's all important because we are trying to help each other to grow, to be better devotees, as we call purification. The only point I made about congregational chanting, yes, there can be two people that chant together. It's true. Yeah. 10 people can chant together. It's more uproarious. You can't deny that. But, and that's why, and again, temple is there for the reasons you said. It's a Vaikuntha embassy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so, what better than to go to the embassy where this business is 100%, Krishna.
Yes,
So
thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
No problem, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Any other comments?
Thank you very much. No comments. Thank you very much. Very nice, informative class. Very nice.
I see a hand up in ISKCON Philadelphia. I don't know who.
Hare Krishna, this is Sita. Please accept my humble obeisance. My question is, when we wanna be there, and we wanna, as devotees, you show your love to another devotee, but so most of the times you feel the reciprocation, but sometimes you don't. What do you do when you don't feel the reciprocation?
Do you need reciprocation?
No,
as the reason to help others?
We need reciprocation. I mean, that would be the level that I would want to be at some point, where you just give and give and give, and you don't care about getting anything back. But it's about like, what is the trick? Like, I'm conditioned. I'm not at the level where and I try, and I sincerely try that even when I don't get reciprocation, I always keep in my mind that, will Krishna love me if I don't do that? No. I gotta do what's right, because, Krishna will only love me if I keep giving and giving. But the internal conflict, obviously in the face of it, I am able to control myself, and my reactions are okay, and I'm able to do it. But the internal conflict that I have is like, I am trying to reach out, I'm trying to love, and I'm trying to do what's needful, but somehow I'm not, somehow I feel like, I feel like maybe there is a coldness, or maybe the reciprocation is not there. Maybe I'm misinterpreted. Maybe it's, and So what is the trick? What is the switch I can flip in my mind to say, that the internal conflict goes away? I mean, externally, I'm able to, be okay, but the internal conflict comes in, and that's my question.
Yeah, it's very, very subtle. But it's also something we have to be very much aware of in terms of our own intentions when we serve. We may serve very nicely, we may serve sincerely, and in being around devotees, if you open up to them and share, this is as it says in the Nectar of Instruction, and share things that are important in confidence with them, when you can trust that they will maintain your confidentiality, you can build a bond. And with that bond, with the few devotees, relate to them, and they will be, at the beginning, your go-to people who you feel a bond with. And so from that, this is a starting point. Those you can really confide in. They will, of course, I'm assuming that they will actually maintain the trust so that you can go on with them and relate to them and then keep serving. Now, when you're serving, the regular services that you do, devotees would appreciate the service. Some devotees may think, well, it's just something that she's doing, somebody's supposed to do it and she's doing it, so it's all right. There are devotees that way. People are at different levels. And some devotees will be very appreciative. But the ones that you can go to and open your heart to them are the ones that you should connect with the most, even outside the temple property itself, when you're not serving in the temple. Still connect with them. I think people that would understand what you're going through. And if you do that, then that gives your, how to put it, good foundation, good spiritual foundation. You have your go-to person or go-to persons, 3 or 4 or even 5 people for different reasons you can go to. Then you can maintain that and keep serving. And then the consciousness you have to have also is the service that I'm doing, the internal conflict should be beaten. Why? The internal conflict should be minimized and eventually removed the way you described it. Because every service that I do, I get spiritual credits for it. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead doesn't miss anything. Now, let me tell you one story. When I first came to Krishna consciousness, this is real quick, Bhakti Jayara Maharaj, and this is in Washington, D.C., gave us an opportunity to book time to see him one-on-one. I was new. I just come to Krishna consciousness back then, not knew much at all. So he asked my background when I came, got a chance to speak to him one-on-one in his room. And I talked about the different religions. I was looking for truth, more about Krishna, I was about God at that time. Been to, from Catholic Church to different other religions and so on. And when I went to the one Muslim faith temple or mosque that they had, that I described all kinds of things that they did that I didn't appreciate at all. And Bhakti Maharaj listened, and when they finished, he told me one sentence: "But God didn't cheat you." I said, "Yeah, God, they cheated me, but God didn't cheat me." So see, when you're serving, when people, you don't see, if you don't get the point of people get the feeling that people appreciate what you're doing, and that internal, as you describe it, that internal, how'd you put it? Internal conflict or criticism or whatever. No, you didn't use criticism.
No, the
internal
it's
thoughts.
not the criticism. It's
not criticism. I know
the
that.
hurt. It's the hurt.
Okay.
It's the hurt. You like, yeah. So yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Krishna is noting everything. The Paramatma doesn't miss anything. So to yourself, you say, all right, I'm serving, whether the devotees see it or not, appreciate it or not, Krishna is not missing anything. Krishna, the Lord in our heart, knows everything. And in the end, it would be all that would be my spiritual bank account. And I definitely get to benefit from that much spiritual savings in that account. So for that reason, that tell your mind that that's what you're getting, and you're getting a lot of it the more you serve. And I know you serve quite a bit.
Hare Krishna, can I add something? Can I add something, please? I'm sorry, Sita Devi. I just wanted to appreciate Sita Devi Dasi's vulnerability in this room, and also, you know, just her comment about feeling, you know, a particular way about serving, and not perhaps getting something that really should be given overall, because we are practicing bhakti. We're not, mucking bars, you know, something like that. So it's personal. And so to feel pain is an aspect of this personal process that we are in. It means that we are healing and we are getting out of this process what we need in order to help us do better. Regarding revealing one's mind in confidence, which is what Pariksit Prabhu was saying, which helps to take the load off. That's why there's $1 billion industry called therapy and psychology, which is actually very, very helpful to decompressing in order to see what's inside of us, what we need to work on, what we can do better, and also what our pains have been that have slowed us down devotionally, professionally, etc. But in terms of bhakti, I'd like to just add that on top of that, revealing one's mind and confidence, that there are etiquettes that are put in place to help protect us individually from getting caught up in entanglements of whatever types, revealing one's mind and confidence to another woman, or revealing one's mind and confidence to an elder who is connected to us in a way that can't be misconstrued or can't roll into something bigger than what is necessary in seeking help. I just wanted to appreciate your vulnerability and asking the question, because ultimately it really affects and relates to us all. We all have feelings, we all get sad, we all get disappointed, but Krishna consciousness is the process that helps us move through things that do not ultimately lead to the best that we are and have to give in all ways. So thank you, Hare Krishna.
Krishna, only thing I'll add to, thank you very much for the comment. So to Sita Mataji, everyone that is Guru, Krishna, devotees, pure devotees in the spiritual world are rooting for us to serve as best we can to go back to the spiritual world. The devotees here that we're relating to are going through purification. Don't expect a whole lot from them. Don't expect a whole lot from them. Whatever appreciation you get, be happy for that. But the Lord is not missing anything. And those in the spiritual world are rooting for us to come home. So if we tell our minds that, then that would be the impetus, the groundedness that we need in order to keep going. It says, I'm not losing at all, but I'm gaining, and the Lord in the heart knows it. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. I do want to just clarify, I'm not looking for appreciation. I'm not looking for, any kind of pat on the back. It was very, the question was very different. It was very deep. It was more that, it's simple, it's like when you love your child and then you feel like the child is like, yeah, I love you, mommy too, walk away, right? And then you're like, did you really, and then the conditioning, prevents us to see, gets the good of us, like, that person really didn't care about me. Should I really be pouring my heart into this?
Wait a minute. Did I hear you say that Krishna didn't really care about me? Should I be pouring my heart?
No.
Okay, say it again.
The person.
I didn't hear you properly, sir.
No, not Krishna. Krishna knows everything. That is out of.
I didn't hear you properly. That's why I just wanted.
It was a person. It's the person.
Oh, the person. Okay, the person doesn't care about you.
So like, should I be really pouring my heart into this or my energy? And we all have so many hours in the day and so much you can do, right? So should I be pouring my heart into this and it causes me pain, or should I be using that time doing something else, right? That's and then you're like, well, you know what, whatever comes in my mind, and as I say, there's a conflict I go through, and then I tell myself and I say, you know what, I'm doing it for Krishna. I'm not doing it for anybody else. I'm just doing it for Krishna. So I keep doing it. But the conflict is there. And I was just wondering if there's a switch I can turn off that even the internal isn't there. But I understand it's a process. I realized from listening to everybody here that, it's a process. And the more I practice, it'll happen. And my Guru's mercy is there. And I'm very indebted to that. And, hopefully I will also be at a point where I could just smile at everything and just see Krishna everywhere. And
it's a process of growth.
Yes.
It's a process of growth. And I understand you, and I apologize for not hearing properly. That's why, and I didn't. I immediately just talked about it, but you can put that aside. You wouldn't think that way. But one more, as you were speaking, one more thing came to me. Connect very much to Guru. Connect with your Guru in prayer.
Absolutely.
Constantly.
Yes.
Constantly. Even if you're doing it, do it more than you're doing now. Even more than you're doing now. Because he's a connection to Krishna for you. Okay, connect more with that. And then all of that feelings that you talked about, talk about it even in greater detail when you pray to him, to his picture. You can write to him. By the way, he is,
I just saw him yesterday, and day before I was there. So that's why I said, I'm very, very fortunate for that reason that I have I'm able to get that.
Then it comes to the point where Raghunath Das Swami was saying, Mana Shiksha. Tell the mind when these things, come that other devotee didn't appreciate much of what you were doing, then you just say, but there's all these other things. The Lord in the heart, taking note of everything that I do that's positive. My Guru Maharaj, I have so much. In other words, you begin to count your spiritual blessings.
Yes.
You counteract the things sometimes that's there.
Yes. Count your blessings. Right. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Totally agree. Thank you very, very much. Mother Shobara, they texted she had to leave. So I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us, and Pariksit Prabhu, thank you so much. Always, you have you're really blessed, and as we all know, Krishna speaks through you. Your Guru's mercies on your head, and we can all feel it even in your preaching. So much. Thank you so much for sharing your. I know, and we can see that.
They get the credit.
So, absolutely, we are the instruments. So, thank you very, very much for allowing that to happen, and thank you for sharing your time with us. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you tonight at 5 p.m. for Bhagavad Gita.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyascha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.